I'd invested $30,000 USD into a mentor, and he didn't even deliver half of what you've done. It was nowhere near. When I joined, instantly the content was just so clear in terms of actionable steps. What I love is that there's this community of people who are on fire building their influence and marketing agencies, and I feel like we're all growing together. And for that investment, honestly, it's priceless. I've got so much out of this. It was worth the money.
Right. So we are here with an awesome entrepreneur. Mark is as a veteran businessman, veteran entrepreneur, even prior to influencer marketing, the IMA Academy. He's been in the space for a long time. And he's got a lot of wisdom I'm sure he can share in this call as well. But Mark, before we jump into the interview, I'd love if you can just share a little bit about yourself, your backstory, who you are, and what you've done sort of to this date in the world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, look, and firstly, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Really love learning from you. So excited to see what we can share together. So in terms of my background, very quickly, my first business, I leased a 200-acre island in Fiji that had nothing on it whatsoever. Invited the world to join me online and build an eco-island from scratch. That was featured in 200 media outlets around the world and became a TV show in 3 countries. I also then moved into helping individuals build their businesses online. So online marketing, essentially. Now, something really, really important I want to say here is that I don't want people to switch off thinking this guy's been in the industry, he knows what he's doing. When you start any new business, you're starting from scratch, and we'll get into this. But when I sort of moved into influencer marketing, it was ground up again, and it scared the heck out of me, which is why I wanted to work with you.
Yeah, and I think that's really awesome. I mean, firstly, your story is mind blowing about the fact that was your first business that you leased an island of Fiji. Like, many people can't say they've done that. I think most people in the world will never be able to say something as cool as that. So that's incredible. But I think what you say is really interesting, because I know a number of people who I have a very good friend actually who runs a very large influencer agency out in LA. He manages George Janko, who used to be in the Logan Paul podcast, now has his own podcast, and he has tried and failed prior to his current business 7 companies. And whilst he's obviously got 7, technically 7 bits of like business experience behind him, every single time he started something new, it was all super new. We're kind of restarting and learning from the beginning. So I'd love to kind of understand from your end, why did you want to start your influencer marketing agency when you did first start, and kind of what were some of the pain points that you had, obviously, that kind of brought you towards, I suppose, reaching out and finding me?
So again, it's worth explaining that the business that I previously had, it was a 7-figure business, which was amazing, but it was working with individuals one-to-one. It was almost an influencer role. It was a coaching role in terms of marketing. And my pain point was, this was not a business, that I could sell, because it was built around me. And that was becoming quite painful. I've moved into having a baby and starting our family. And so to be at the beck and call of clients and creating content online to market my business and to do the sales, I was locked into the whole thing, and something had to change, something had to give. And so I wanted to build something that potentially I could sell, but also the influencer marketing world, and you say this all the time, but it's only in its beginning, and yet there's so much activity going on in this world, in the influencer marketing space, but there's so much more to go. And I just saw it as this great, awesome place to sort of work in, to get my feet in, and to really learn. I feel like I'm a student, in this new world. So biggest pain points were, I needed to launch a business that I could sell. I wanted a business that provided me with more flexibility, having a family, in terms of time and freedom. I suppose the third thing is, even though, as we said, I had a business, I knew nothing about influencer marketing or where to start or how to start. Or it's easy to see, okay, there's influencers and brand deals, and put the two together, but there's so much more to it than that. And I needed to understand where to start for me.
Yeah, and I think what you say, those 3 points are all super interesting. I think they're all sort of pain points that I think a lot of people probably can share. Your story is very interesting, because I think, as you know, obviously being in the program, most of the guys are rather young, right? And you're obviously there's a couple who are a little bit older, but you're coming from a different background, obviously having a family, being in business previously, working in a number of things. And I think that obviously you found that you want something that's a little bit more flexible, that can work around, your family. Obviously, if someone would be, in a 9 to 5 or running a different sort of business model, you don't quite get that same flexibility, which you need, is, as you say. I think what you're saying about influencer marketing and finding a business model that can be sellable is very interesting. I mean, just in the last couple of years, a number of big UK influencer marketing agencies have sold. Actually, one very recently, the biggest influencer marketing agency in the US called Influential, just recently sold to Publicis Media. So it's a very hot, sort of space that bigger companies are wanting to acquire, existing businesses like this. And I think as well, when you build an influencer marketing agency in the way that you've done, and we'll touch into that, obviously a talent management agency as well, the way that you've gone down, you have an asset there as well that other agencies will want. You have content creators that are very and highly monetizable, especially the ones that the niche that you're in, going long term and going forward. And then also in the final point you mentioned about just, kind of not knowing what to do. I think there's not all that much information out there on influencer marketing, as there is potentially other forms of business, right? I think that if you want to build an info product based business, there's tons of programs and courses that can help you with that. If you want to do SMA, e-com, drop shipping, but this is obviously still relatively new as a space, which makes it obviously all that much more potential for growth and lucrativeness as well.
Just on that as well, Suhit, just on that, it's worth saying that although I have a goal that maybe one day I'll sell it, it's about the sort of journey and the freedom within that sort of journey. I've never wanted to be tied down to a location, to a job, to an employer giving me money. Even now when I have a child, I want that freedom to explore and travel. And I think that's why a lot of people are considering influencer marketing as an option. And it certainly gives all of that and more.
Yeah, 100%. No, I completely agree. I mean, you've just been off obviously on a nice vacation around Europe, and obviously you're still able to probably will still working, right? You're probably still dealing with your influencers, still doing brand deals, because it's all very digital, which is a nice thing about it in most cases. But yeah, we'd love to kind of understand on your end. So obviously, as you know, and as probably viewers of the channel know, we run the IMA Academy. Obviously, this comes with comes with an investment. How did you kind of feel initially, obviously spending, that 4-figure investment on joining this program, right? With a guy that's younger than you, myself is younger than you. So how did you feel after knowing that price point and spending that money?
In terms of dropping that money, it was absolutely scary, because if anybody's listening or watching this, they've done research, that they're thinking about what business should I start. They're looking at maybe other options and looking at people to invest in. I've literally, in building a 7-figure business, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on mentors. And I said to you, Suhit, that I'd invested $30,000 USD into a mentor, well known and respected in this space. And he didn't even deliver, half of what you've done. It was nowhere near. And, I'm not saying that to sort of blow you up, but it's important. It's important because people are listening to this because they're considering investing, and you want to understand who you can trust. And I think I put that money down because of your experience. You were clearly experienced in what you're doing. That shows, because you're in this every day. You're not somebody that is teaching people how to build something that you haven't built yourself. You're in the trenches, and you're going through, all the highs and lows and the situations and challenges that you're facing in your own business. So when I joined, instantly the content was just so clear in terms of actionable steps. It wasn't just I wasn't wasting my hours watching videos that were full of fluff. It was stuff that I could implement straight away. Second thing is, in this sort of online community, the chat that we have together, we can ask you questions and, there's responses, but also what I love is that there's this community of people who are on fire building their influence and marketing agencies, but all learning from one another and all open to sharing in terms of their mistakes, in terms of their wins, so that you're in this live environment. And I feel like we're all growing together and all seeking to be the top of our field together. And for that investment, honestly, it's priceless. And I've got so much out of this. It was worth the money.
Yeah, I know. I think that's one of my favorite things about this whole thing, right? I mean, I launched this program because I had, a couple of people reach out to me and want to learn, and then I had a few more people reach out. So I thought, makes sense. I've got to put it into some brand. I've got to put it into some sort of thing. And as everyone else in the program knows, it's a relatively small group. We're not like a massive, very public community like these other ones where you've got thousands of students in and not a very personal touch. I just personally, I talk about it on my YouTube, and if people reach out to me, they can kind of have that conversation. But I think for me, it's like I am day in, day out running and building my agency. You know, I've got it to a position after these 6 years, but I'm still growing it. I'm still wanting to do more. So it's not like, as you say, I have just had a little bit of success, stopped, and then trying to kind of teach, like most info products people are. And that's obviously, I think, why it's quite valuable in that sense, because obviously everything new that I'm learning, I can have feedback into the group and into the community. But what I do love is exactly what you said, is that it's so even inspiring to me every time you guys post in about, you know, something you guys have done, a new thing, that way that you found to do something that potentially I don't even know. It's amazing because we're all, you know, learning from each other. I've really loved that aspect, especially. And I really want to keep that building and growing. And that's why we obviously only bring in a couple of people every single month.
And I think what's really cool in that as well is that people will talk in the sort of main chat that we have, and somebody might mention something, and then, you know, like I will mention something, and I'll get a DM asking me, oh, can you just give me your advice on how you managed to make that happen? Or I'll send a DM to somebody else, and it is that sort of sharing community that you don't get anywhere else. Also, I think there's this healthy competition in the community to see who can build a better, bigger business. And Suhit,
Yeah, no, there definitely has been. I mean, there was what, there was Shane the other day. There was Shane the other day when Arian obviously hit that big milestone. I was like, he was saying that he was coming for me. But it is great because obviously it's like everyone's inspiring each other and wanting to get to that next step. Every time someone shares another win, the other people are like, right, I got to get my head down. I got to focus. I got to get to that same level, which is amazing. I guess it would be good to understand from your end, from the agency, and hear a little bit actually about, you know, the Thank You agency, what you guys do, a little bit about the creators that you manage. Obviously, we've touched on that you're kind of mainly doing talent management. Tell us a little bit about that and some of the results that you have achieved so far with the agency, because in that short amount of time, like what you've achieved for some of these talent, you know, is amazing.
yeah, and again, it's important to stress that where you end up is not necessarily where you begin. And I think it's important to kind of convey that. So when I first started, I had a different understanding of what I thought my influencer sort of business might look like. And I first launched a business called Rocket Fuel 3. Was the name of the business, and the goal, I was just hitting up anybody, any brand, you know, anybody. And I suddenly realized that like so many people get hit up with, you know, opportunities or requests to
Yeah.
build their influence and marketing. You've got to find your uniqueness, and that's something that you teach very heavily on, Suhit, and help us to sort of formulate. And I really just found this uniqueness when I met up with it. It just happened by accident. An influencer called Samuel. He's got 10 million followers, and his content is incredible. And he takes, for example, terminally ill children to meet their celebrity heroes. Not only does that, but he helps raise money. He uses the platform to raise money. There's a lady, and this will relate to you, in Australia, who had stage 4 cancer, and she couldn't get treatment here in Australia, so she was trying to raise money to get it overseas. She had a GoFundMe. Her goal was to raise 100,000, and she'd raised 20,000. And Samuel created this campaign, and within 10 days, it had 30 million views and raised $230,000. This video, and
Wow.
suddenly, I was then taking him to the media, and he was on TV, and he'd basically asked me to manage him. But I was like, yeah, this is cool. Like what he's doing in the world is amazing. I'd love to help him to be a part of it. This guy, and he's happy for me to say, is that before we started to work together, he was creating content that helped other people, but he was struggling to pay his rent. And at least now, maybe once every 2 weeks, I get this beautiful message off him telling me how grateful he is, that he's got money in the account, the money keeps coming in, and he doesn't have to worry about money. He just focuses on creating content. And that is so humbling, especially when he's also informed me that this lady that went to Mexico to get the treatment for cancer, she's now completely in remission because
Amazing.
of what helped to achieve. So it really grew from there, and I started to pitch him to brands like crazy. And we've worked with the most sort of incredible brands. We had Fila, the sports company. They wanted to give $5,000 worth of clothes to a family that didn't have much money. So we created this amazing video giving them this gift, and they were in the store and running around choosing these clothes. And so brand after brand has come on board. We took him to the US. to work with a company called Pudgy Penguins. From there, it just really grew. And I had other talent reach out to me. And then the most recent example that you mentioned was a guy that reached out to me. He just found out that he was about to go to the Olympics to represent Australia. And he basically said, look, I need as much money as I can. Can you help me? So I hit up, there's a clothing company in Australia called YD, a men's clothing company, Uber. I hit up a lot of different brands, Links. And we got him so many deals through the door that enabled him to pay for his sister and partner to go to Paris with him and experience that journey. So it's just sort of snowballed from there. And again, one of the things for me is, honestly, is the confidence, because although I've built, it sounds crazy, but although I've built a 7-figure agency, I built a company. I built it in a specific space, but it was sort of B2C. I was a coach, I was a mentor, and in my head, I was telling myself that's all I can do. I can only sell in that way to those people. And if I try to sell to the likes of Uber or Lynx, or we've had deals with World Vision that sponsor children, the first time I walked into a corporate head office under the banner of influencer marketing, I was scared, even though I'd had all this experience, because I told myself that I couldn't sell to these people. But when they started to buy the product in terms of the influencer, the brand deals started to come through, my confidence just grew like crazy, and then just inspired me to start reaching out to more and more people. So now I know this works. I'm working in a different space that I've ever worked in before, and now we're heavily looking at how do we scale.
What's even more amazing about this is that a lot of times, we have these interviews and we talk to the young guys, talk to Sev, we talk to Aditya. For them, it's like super, these conversations are very money focused, right? They're young guys and it's talking about how much money can this young guy make. But for you, you're not only doing that. Obviously, you're not only making money for yourself through the agency. You're helping these content creators who are potentially struggling, partnering them with some of the biggest brands you mentioned. Uber, Fila, Links, huge companies that I've not even personally worked with any of them in my 6 years of time. So you beat me to it. And also, because of the niche that your agency is in, you're also then making a difference to the audience, which is a beautiful space to be in. So, all around, you've obviously found that niche, and obviously discussed it before. I think it's super important to niche down in the influencer marketing space. I think in any business, but specifically in influencer marketing, because even talking about the future of acquisition, bigger agencies like acquiring sort of specific types of companies. So, someone might want to acquire a game agency. That's why we're fully gaming, because a lot of bigger game agencies might want to bring in a smaller game agency to monopolize. And then obviously you've mentioned that you're working with Sam's, one of Australia's biggest, probably one of the top content creators in Australia.
Yeah, one of the biggest in Australia. But in terms of the kindness, gratitude content, he's up there with the top 5 in the world.
Yeah, I think he's you pretty much have, you also manage branding, right? Don't you? So you've got pretty much all the guys I know in the kindness space. Obviously you manage, and then also even as well, you've even taken it past just influencers. You're obviously now Olympic athletes, which is absolutely incredible, and partnering them with some awesome brands.
Today we had a meeting with our accountant, myself and my husband. The business has built enough money that we've decided to go for it, and for us to both work in the business full time and give it a shot and see if we can build it and scale it and grow it bigger. Yeah, and really do some awesome things in the world. And that's a decision that we've made today. So not only is it impacting all those people, but it's impacting our life too. And I just want to say, for anybody that's considering a younger age, I'm taking those risks, and that's the results that I've, achieved with mortgages over my head and a family. So if you're younger, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Well, that's you hadn't told me that yet, and I'm glad you told me that in this interview, because it's my face. That's incredible. I'm so happy for you guys. That's awesome, and that obviously gives you another pair of fans to be able to go forward and start building and scaling that. And I mean, my next question was going to be sort of, how has what you've been doing with influencer marketing impacted your life? But there it is. But obviously, this is all amazing. There's a lot of amazing things. But I'm sure on the way you will have faced challenges. Every single business has. So I'd love to know from your end, has there been any sort of challenges and main challenges that you've faced so far on the journey to building the agency?
One of the hurdles at the beginning was finding my place. So I talked to you about how I started a business called Rocket Fuel 3, and it, although it was a concept, I didn't have that thing. I didn't have that that uniqueness that made brands go, I want to work with you. So that was one thing. Another thing is definitely scaling, and we're still learning how to scale. on what that means and what that means for us. So, for example, one of the things that we do, as you mentioned, is that we manage talent, and we get 20% of any deals that come through. So we created something called the Kindness Collective, which is a bunch of talents from all over the world that are open to working on a contra deal basis. So they're open to creating content in exchange for product. We'll help you to work with the very best on a contra deal basis, the best brands, and then help you to position yourself utilizing the results that you get with those brands to then pitch yourself to other brands so that you then get paid, right? So the whole goal here was for us to be able to build a sort of a retainer model where brands would pay us to run their campaigns in which they only give product away. And that has come with a whole bunch of challenges. Like the idea is there, and it's certainly grown, and it's one of the biggest areas that's growing in terms of income stream into the business. But managing campaigns, managing a number of talent at once. We have a campaign that we're running right now with 12 influencers, and they had to pick up product from a location. They had to then film this product. It was actually a food-based product, so
Yep.
the brand wanted it a certain way, and there's lots that I've learned in that process, and at times I've thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this. But one of the reasons my husband's looking at coming to the business is because we've learned our strengths, and my strength is sales. I'm
Yep.
absolutely great at having conversations with people. And honestly, I want to spend all day, every day doing that. But one of the issues has been sales versus then fulfillment and delivery when you're growing your business and you're trying to do everything at once. So that's something that we've learned along the way. Every single business has challenges along the way, and you have to find what works for you. Like what is your place within this business that you can excel in and grow in, and it makes you get up every single day wanting to just own that role. And I think that's where businesses thrive, when you own your role and then outsource the rest to those who thrive in the positions that you're not good in as well. There's lots to learn in growing a business, but yeah, the benefits are all there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think when as you're going to grow and scale this business, I mean, yourself, I don't need to tell you this because you've been probably in business for longer than me. The way that you will end up scaling, especially in influencer marketing, is focusing down on the things that you are very good at, and then bring in people who are better than you in other areas and can actually deliver it and do that. There's a number of bits in the business that I don't do anymore, and I have people who are better than me at doing it. There's a number of areas like systems, data, operations just goes over my head, and I have a person that knows how to do that and is better at it. But that is the only way to scale, right? Because eventually, a lot of the people who probably come into the program, they're young, they just want to build like a lifestyle business that can pay them some money, they can have a freedom life. That's fine. But yourself and other people, rather ambitious, want to build it, want to scale it, want to get it to another size. And that's all about how do you find the right people to plug those gaps where maybe your knowledge doesn't quite sit. And I've learned that, I've got a number of people in my team now. There's over 15 people. Obviously, you're starting to start building that over the coming months. And also, I suppose it allows you to focus on those higher leverage tasks, right? Bring that money in and then have the delivery side of things focused on and taken over. So yeah, I love that. I completely agree with that. But I think that the sentiment from that message that you've just mentioned is that no matter how far on you get with business, the challenges continue. You just have slightly different challenges, and they may be better challenges. I've got a whole host of challenges right now that I've never faced before. But the challenges never stop. It's just about having that self-belief that you can get through it and continue, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about. It's, taking that risk. But anyways, just to kind of wrap up, I've got two final questions from you, Mark. So obviously we've discussed a little bit about the program. Is there anyone that you would personally say, the IMA Academy, this is the type of thing that you should get involved in?
If you're young and you're still watching this and you're still listening to this conversation because something has sparked, you've listened to Suhit's content and followed his work, and you're like, oh, I kind of want to dabble, but I'm not sure. Take the risk. Like, you're young enough to take the risk. And I look at some of the guys and girls in the academy, and the success is incredible, and they fire me up. Like, these are young guys that are just firing me up, and they're getting these amazing results. And I'm like, I've got to do more. I want to do more. Like, I'm inspired to do more, to be a part of this. So take the risk. If you're young, take the risk. And a lot of your content and the people that you spoke to in these interviews is targeted at that. But there's another audience that I want to speak to, and that is an older audience. And maybe you've been in the corporate world and you're kind of sick and tired of working for somebody else. You've built enough skills, and you're wondering whether to take that leap on your own, or maybe you've got a business in a different field, and you're so intrigued by this influencer marketing space, and you sort of want to give it a go. Look, I would say from my perspective, as somebody that has a mortgage, that has a child, that has a family, that has responsibilities, it's always a risk when you've got more responsibilities. But being in this community and learning from Suhit, all the content that you've created, it's enabled me to build a business from scratch, and to bring in my husband into the business and go on this journey together and take that risk and take that ownership of your own life, and enjoy it. And look, as I say, I've invested so much more in other people and got nowhere near the results. So I'm grateful.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's really awesome, because I think from your perspective, you are that person that can speak to that older audience, because people watching me, I'm still young, so they're probably thinking, so you didn't really have any liabilities or risks, and that's why I started. That's why I did get started so young, because it's like I've got nothing to lose right now. And I think obviously a lot of younger people, they can resonate with that. They understand that they might be in high school and uni. If they spend a few $1,000s trying to run a business and it fails, it's not the end of the world for them. They've got a whole life ahead of them, but that money becomes much, much more important as you're older, you have a family, you got people that rely on you, liabilities, dependencies. And obviously, I can't speak to that, but obviously I think you, in your situation, you're the best person to speak to that. But I think, as Mark said, that, I don't think that just because you're in that situation, there's a reason why you can't take that risk. If it's something that is, you feel like you want it, you shouldn't keep putting it off. People do put things off because I think there's a perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time. It doesn't matter. Even if you have that little voice inside you that wants more, it's time to, whether it's working with me, whether it's doing influencer marketing, or whether it's just taking any other sort of risk, go ahead and do that. It doesn't matter what it is, but you should take the action today, as opposed to leaving it too late, in my opinion.
I actually purposely sought out a younger mentor, because
Really?
yeah, absolutely, because I've worked with lots of older people in this sort of marketing space, legends of their time,
Yeah.
amazing, incredible people. But influencer marketing is sort of up and coming, and it's a younger generation that gets it faster and is on the edge of that, the forefront of that. And so I purposely sought out a younger mentor who's doing and building and achieving, for two reasons. One, because you're out there on the forefront, but also because you haven't had the experience of rubbish mentors that an older audience might have had done. You were building
Yeah.
something from scratch based upon what you felt that you wanted to teach based on your experience. So I didn't want a mentor that's been through all different mentorship programs himself, and that's really important for me.
Awesome! Wow, I didn't realize that was that was one of the reasons. But that's super interesting. I guess to wrap up, just my final question. I know you've kind of touched on it. What are sort of some of your future plans and goals that you have personally, and I suppose with the agency? I know you have mentioned them already, but is there anything that's like really exciting you right now about the future that you really want to go out and achieve?
Wow, big question. On one level, I'm sort of taking it a day at a time, but on another level, I just want to build this amazing business in the influencer marketing space, because, as you know, there's so much going on in this space, and again, we're only on the sort of at the beginning of where this could
Yep.
go, like we said at the very beginning. So I want to build it, maybe sell it, but I just want to learn. There's so much I'm learning, and yeah, there's just so much to sort of enjoy along that way. And most importantly, I want to continue to build a business that enables me to live a life. And I genuinely mean live a life, because we all know that we're here once, and I just want to live life to the full. And an influencer agency really does enable me to just enjoy it and basically love what I do every single day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's a super powerful message. You want to find a vehicle that allows you to keep learning every day. Is something that has that future ability to potentially exit and grow, but also something that allows you to kind of live a real life. A life that you actually want to live, as opposed to what life as other people see it. Right, one where you're kind of chained down and have to kind of follow certain protocols and structures that kind of the world puts on you, something that allows you those three things. And I think that's the kind of perfect blend, and allows for kind of a beautiful business to be born. But Mark, that's all my questions. I don't know if you have any lasting notes you want to share to the viewers, and otherwise I really appreciate your time and hopping on with me today.
No, that's it. And look, again, thank you so much for your mentorship and guidance. It's changed my life, and I know it's changing many others, both now and the lives of those to come that join your work.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Take care.